Yeah, that's crazy. Absolutely, Carl. Thank you for calling in, man. We appreciate it. All right, have a good one now. We had a couple upsets also this weekend in college football. Howard went and beat UNLV, man. How about that?
That was crazy.
What was what was more crazy though? Howard beating UNLV or Liberty beating Baylor?
I think it's got to be probably, what? Probably Liberty.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Liberty too. Baylor is, UNLV is not expected to be a very good football team this year. There's 130 FBS teams. I think they're picked somewhere in the low 100s around. That doesn't mean anything. That's just, before the season starts. You never know what can happen. So, but it's still a huge upset either way. I think UNLV was a 43-point favorite. But Baylor getting beat by Liberty. I didn't even know Liberty had a football team, much less going to beat Baylor. I mean, it's crazy what's happened since Robert Griffin's left the program. Really since what was the quarterback's name after him? I can't.
Petty.
Yeah, since that they just, I don't know, man. I don't know how. That's got to be the end of it for the head coach. You can't lose to a team like that. I'm interested to see how they bounce back.
Yeah.
I think I think it just shows that Baylor's just not there. It's back to Baylor.
It is.
You know what I mean? It's Baylor had their little time, and that time is over.
And if you remember with Art Browns when he was there,
Yeah.
And he was doing a great job.
He was doing a great job.
But the scandal comes.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's really just they haven't bounced back. It's ruined the
Right.
program.
Right. Yeah. And that's what worries me. That brings me. That's kind of a good segue to go to the Ole Miss South Alabama game. I thought Ole Miss looked good, but seeing the situation down in Baylor, that worries me about Ole Miss football. I don't know how a program responds to all the sanctions and the violations that they're having to deal with. On the other hand, I thought they made a good showing. I know they played South Alabama. But I like what the quarterback did. I thought their defense played good. It was good to see them show up. They played hard. So that's good. I'm sure Ole Miss fans are happy. And I'm definitely interested in seeing what they can do in the SEC this year. Most people picked them in that 7th spot in the West. And, I saw a couple prognosticators pick them, 6th. But I've got them 4th. I kind of stepped out on a limb. I put them 4th. I think there's still some talent there. I think those kids that stayed have a chip on their shoulder, and I think the coach definitely has their attention. He's going to get he demands, you're going to play hard. He's one of those type guys that you're going to play hard every play, or you're going to come out. He's going to put the guys that play the hardest in there, and you're expected to play hard every snap, or you won't play. And I like that style. I expect them to pull an upset or two this year and maybe finish 6-6, 7-5, whereas most people have them 4-8, 5-7 like last year. So we have Howard beating UNLV, Liberty beating Baylor. That brings me to the parity in college football, man. It is really becoming a level playing field after watching this last week of football. There's really not outside of Alabama a team that just really blows you away. Is there another team that blew you away, Josh, that just really separated themselves from the rest?
Watching, I can't really say anybody blew me away. I mean, even Michigan, as impressive as that was.
Yeah, that was impressive.
That's probably the closest. Because Ohio State, they didn't blow anybody away.
No.
That was a close game.
That was a close game for 3 quarters. Now, speaking of Ohio State, though, what they did do, Indiana allowed them 3 or 4 possessions that if I was the head coach they wouldn't have gotten, and they found their identity in the 4th quarter, and I think that's going to make the Oklahoma game this week a totally different outcome. They got the rhythm that they started kind of clicking, and if that carries over, man, it's going to be a shootout against Oklahoma this weekend. At least that's what I expect.
I can't wait for that game.
I can't wait for it either. Speaking of shootouts, I know it's a little off the radar, but man, what about South Carolina and their quarterback Jake Bentley? I picked them 3rd in the SEC East this year, and definitely got some reactions when I picked that one. Most people don't expect. I'm not a big fan of Will Muschamp, but that kid Jake Bentley, the sophomore quarterback, is something to watch. I think Deebo Samuel is the best wide receiver in the SEC. There's a lot of good wide receivers in the SEC. I think Deebo Samuel is the best wide receiver as far as what he can do once the ball's in his hand. They've got a really good run game. And then Will Muschamp's a defensive guy. If there's one thing he can do, he can coach up a defense. So, I picked them third. It's going to be between Florida and Georgia. South Carolina I have coming in third. But they play Missouri this weekend. Missouri hung 72 this weekend on Missouri State in a game that was they put up 815 yards on Missouri State. 72-43, 101 points scored in the game. So I expect the Missouri and South Carolina game to be one of those back and forth where the punter probably has to warm up before he goes out there. I expect a lot of points being scored in that game. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. But if you haven't caught the two quarterbacks at Missouri and South Carolina, if you didn't get to see them, be sure to watch. I think it's Drew Lock is his name at Missouri. He lit it up, and I think Bentley is really, really going to be. He's already made a name for himself. He looked good against NC State, and that was a big game for South Carolina. I had that game circled. I thought that if they could get past that game and then go to Missouri this weekend, if there's a chance that they can go 5-1, 6-0 to start the season, don't be surprised if South Carolina is one of those surprise teams when the BCS polls come out that are somewhere in that top 15, and then I have them absolutely crumbling in the last half. So I want to make that very clear. South Carolina I have as a possible surprise team in the BCS in the top, after 6 weeks when they come out, if they're sitting at 5-1, 6-0, and then I think I have them going 2-4 down the stretch. They got a really tough part of the schedule. But my thing with South Carolina, I think out of the 12 games, 4 of the games are on the road. They played one neutral site with NC State, and then they get 7 at home. And in the SEC West, they avoided the three-headed monster of Alabama, LSU, and Auburn. So they got a really good draw this year, and just based off the quarterback, based off of their run game, the playmaker with Deebo Samuel, and a very favorable schedule. I have them starting the season very well. They got to get past this shootout game that they're going to be against Missouri, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Talking about going out on a limb though with a pick like that, I sure will look good if I'm right. If I'm not right, then everybody can just say I told you so. So back to Memphis, man. I really am excited about the game Friday night. The kickoff has been moved to 5:30. I am concerned about their front seven. They do have a couple guys out for the year. Jared Gentry's out. Darian Porter's out. Jannard Avery, they're saying, is day-to-day. Jackson Dillon will be out for this week for sure. So hopefully some guys can fill in, and they're going to be relying heavily on the offense. I think it's going to be one of those games where they have to match UCF point for point. I think it's going to go back and forth. It should be fun to watch. So I'm really excited about that. And hopefully they're not looking ahead to next week. I know it has to be hard with UCLA on deck at home, but it is a conference game. It is on the road. There's a lot of variables in this game. The fact that it's been moved up, the weather issue, hopefully the weather will be okay. But I'm really excited to see what the offense can do. I'm really excited to see what Riley Ferguson can do. And the passing game of Memphis, I think that'll be another fun to watch, high-scoring ball game. To get away from football for a minute and talk a little bit about LeBron. There's been a lot of discussion about what Cleveland's going to do with that pick that they're going to get from Brooklyn. I've heard a few different things. What have you heard about that, Josh? Have you heard anything in particular?
Yeah, a lot of rumors, some just people speculating and realistic possibilities. To me, the one that got my most attention, raised my eyebrows, was the Marcus Cousins.
That would be huge.
The fact that just looking at, and it's realistic to see because that pick. Cousins on a 1-year deal. Mm-hmm. New Orleans, if they feel like he's not coming back,
right,
might as well see if let's see if we can get something in return. And Cleveland, you imagine?
Wow.
If they get Cousins with what they have.
Yeah, that would be huge. Here's the thing. Here's my thing with Cleveland. They've got to. They're definitely shopping the pick. They need to package the pick with someone, with probably, I would say, Kevin Love. That's what I would do, and then get an elite type player. The something that I heard, and I don't know if they were just discussing it But I heard Anthony Davis for the 2018 pick that they'll get from the Nets that will fall somewhere between 1 and 5 most likely, and Kevin Love for Anthony Davis. That would be huge, and I think that would be smart because LeBron. I expect LeBron to go after 2018. I expect him to leave, but if you get a guy like Anthony Davis in there with that pick and say Kevin Love, he might have to second think that. I know I would because that would be huge. But I think if they're going to shop the pick, I think they need to package it with the player. I would guess Kevin Love would be the guy. And if they could get a guy, they need to get an elite type player because it's Cleveland. And once LeBron's gone, if they don't do that, it's just going to go back to they're going to become the Browns of NBA basketball. It's just, that's just how it is in Cleveland. So I just thought I'd talk about that for a second. That's interesting to hear, what's going on there. As far as
Davis, I think he's got about 3 more years left.
Yeah, I believe so. So yeah, and that's you got to look at that. You definitely want to make sure you're getting at least two years out of whoever you bring. And because who knows? But like I said, it's a win now. Everything's win now. No one really cares, about later. But you definitely got to look ahead. As far as this week goes, going back to college football, I'm really excited about the Clemson and Auburn game. I think that's going to be a really, really, really good game. I have Clemson coming out of the ACC. I definitely have them coming out of the ACC now with the injury to Francois. They get Florida State at home this year as well. I had them prior to the injury. After Auburn, they make a trip to Louisville, which will be an interesting game. Lamar Jackson kind of did his thing this weekend. So I'm excited to see what Clemson can do. I really like their quarterback Kelly. I think that I don't know, man. Deshaun Watson was a really, really, really player, but this kid has a ton of potential. I'm not saying he's going to be the reincarnation of Deshaun Watson, but I think he's going to fill his shoes just fine. And Clemson is a team that they won the national championship, but I don't know about you, Josh, but I didn't hear too much talk about them when it came to the BCS prior to the season kicking off. I expect Clemson to be in there, man. I expect them to be in there, especially after this week of football. Bama was by far the most impressive team that I saw. Outside of that, like you said, Michigan, they were impressive. What really surprised me about Michigan against Florida was they matched them with their speed. I was expecting Florida to be much faster. I knew they were a little more experienced than Michigan, but man, Michigan, they didn't show it. They didn't show the inexperience that much. They played a sound game, and I think that's a lot of credit to Harbaugh and how good of a coach he is, coaching those young players up. The future definitely looks bright for Michigan. I still think that they're a year away from Ohio State. I think Penn State, it would probably, it's going to be between those two, Penn State, Ohio State. If I had to pick a dark horse, I would probably go with Wisconsin before I went with Michigan, just because of Wisconsin's schedule. They have a very soft and favorable schedule when I look at it on paper. But who knows? You never know what's going to happen, injuries and stuff like that. In the Pac-12, I thought USC was very disappointing the way they looked. I didn't think they looked as good as they should. They got the win. I thought Washington, did as expected. Those were kind of the two teams on the podcast with Clinton that we do Sports Queued Up on the OAM network that you can subscribe to on TuneIn. You can tune in on Stitcher or on if you have an iPhone on iTunes. So if you have an Android, Stitcher. If you have an iPhone, iTunes. It's Sports Queued Up on the OAM network. We talked about if there was a Power 5 conference that sent two teams, what conference would it be? And I think the consensus, we kind of came to the conclusion that there wouldn't be a conference that sent two, but if there was one, hypothetically speaking, it would be the Pac-12, and it would be USC and Washington, based on the premises that the Pac-12 is very watered down this year. There's just not a whole lot of good teams. When you look at UCLA, they escaped. That's another game I don't think that we've talked about. The 34-point comeback against Texas A&M this weekend. That was pretty amazing. I was actually kind of glad to see UCLA win because I want them to come in to Memphis 2-0. But you talk about Oregon, they're not what they used to be. Washington State, they can score points, but can they play defense? And that's the main thing in the Pac-12. Who plays defense? And when you look at it, you've got USC and you've got Washington. Those are the only two that really play defense. They also have good offenses. But that was a topic of discussion. I don't think there will be a conference that sends two. But if there was, it would probably be the Pac-12. This weekend, do you have any games that you have highlighted or you're excited about watching, Josh?
Man, this weekend we talked about Ohio State.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma.
That's going to be a really big game. I think, I keep going back to that fourth quarter, but I can't emphasize how important that is. Being a former football player, I can't emphasize how important that is when you start clicking like that. You just saw it. The game, it was a tight game for about, 40 minutes, 42 minutes, about 3 minutes, I think, 4 minutes left in the third, and then you could just see those guys on the offensive side of the ball, J.T. Barrett and the guys around him, They you couldn't call it, you couldn't figure them out. You didn't know if they were going to pass or throw. They were balanced. They were making plays, and they laid it on in Indiana in the fourth quarter. They scored 29 points, I believe, in the last 18 minutes of the ball game to get a 28-point win, which I believe will help them tremendously. Whereas if they go into the Oklahoma game saying they win that game tight, like a 27-21 win, with a lot of questions on that side of the ball, I think they really found out who they were on that side. I think the defense is there. They're going to be good on defense. I think Indiana has a pretty good offense, so I wasn't surprised that Indiana put 21 points up on them. The defense really came through down the stretch and shut them down. Their guys got tired. They were running that hurry-up type offense, and they were just tired. They got tired. They had a few 3-and-outs, and that was the end of that. But I'm really excited to see Baker Mayfield go up against J.T. Barrett. Baker Mayfield is my pick. If Oklahoma, and that's a big if they can make it out of the Big 12, I expect him to win the Heisman Trophy this year. I don't think Jackson will be a repeat. I do like Geis down at LSU. I think he's going to make a lot of noise, the running back down at LSU. But I think if Oklahoma shows up in the Final Four, the BCS playoff, I think that it'll be because of Baker Mayfield's play. He'll have, if they make it, and like I said, that's a big if, they'll probably have 2 wins over Oklahoma State. And they can afford to lose this game this weekend. If Ohio State beats them, that's okay. They can still go into Big 12 play, and I think they can afford that loss. Whether they can afford another one, I don't know. I don't know if a team gets in with 2 losses. What do you think?
Well, it's going to be interesting. It's so much that goes into that. And I like Oklahoma. I like Baker Mayfield. But I think there's some other guys, man. And I'm glad you didn't say Sam Darnold, because I'm just not a believer in him at all. And I felt that way before the season. He proved it this past week.
Yeah.
And I feel smart for saying I didn't believe it.
We'll talk about it more when we get back.
Okay. Yeah, we're on break now.
Who do we got in here? Talk about Bitcoin. I probably need to invest, Adam. What's up, Q? Hey, Angela, what's going on? Jimmy and Devin Bush. Hey, Mom, what's going on, Mom? Rachel Johnson, what's going on? Thanks, everybody, for watching.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah.
We're rolling, man.
We are rolling, man. The time goes by so fast. Mike Chavez, what's going on? Greg Lawrence, what's going on? Greg, call in. Call in. Let's talk some football, man. Hey, Carly. What's going on, Carly? Gordon Stark, thanks for watching. Kevin Wright, thanks for watching. Darren, thanks, everyone, for watching. Alex, what's going on? Hey, Heather, what's going on? Thanks, everybody, for watching. I really appreciate it. What's up, Josh?
You sure you give, if you have the number periodically?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
But, yeah, man, it's
what do you want to talk about this last 15, man? I feel like I need to talk a little NFL, man.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's talk a little NFL. What are some marquee games coming up this weekend, man? I've been so focused on my NCAA stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I need to get to work on my NFL stuff.
I'm hyped that I'm just hyped that. It is a big game, Titans Oakland.
Ooh, that's a huge game.
Yeah.
Is it in Nashville?
Yeah.
Ooh.
So that's a tough start.
Yeah, that's a real tough start, man. I've got Oakland. I think I picked them out of the AFC to play New England.
Yeah.
To get that 2 spot. And
last year, man, and I agree with him actually. I thought if Carr didn't get hurt, they would have been the challenge to New England.
I believe so too. Yeah, I agree on that.
Carr's awesome.
So we'll talk a little Tennessee Titans then.
Cool.
We'll talk a little Tennessee Titans. I bet they can. Maybe somebody will call in. Who else plays this weekend in the NFL?
Let's see.
I'm trying to think. I was watching last night. I should have taken some notes.
Thursday is Kansas City at New England.
Ooh, that's another good one. I mean, Kansas City.
Well, yeah. But it's still Kansas City, I guess.
It's at Kansas City?
At New England.
Oh, at New England.
Yeah.
Edelman being out, everybody's kind of making a big deal. I think they'll just plug somebody in. They got Brandon Cooks, right?
Exactly.
Brandon Cooks is that
he's awesome.
He'll slide right in.
Yeah.
Quentin was saying that he's not a slot guy. I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I think they'd rather use him as a deep threat. But he can play slot.
Man, he can play slot.
Yeah,
they can run those slip screens. And you just want to get the ball in his hands in space.
Exactly.
And then let him do his thing. That's the dude that came from Oklahoma State, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that dude's cold.
He's
gonna fill in.
New Orleans.
Yeah, he's gonna fill in fine. We're about to come back on here, guys. Thanks everybody for hanging in. Steve Durgeon, thanks for watching. Aaron Smith, what's up, man? Thanks for watching. Tim, go ahead, call in. I don't see Tim in here, but yeah, call in. You can call in and talk, Tim. 901-452-3094. We're probably about to talk a little Tennessee Titan football. Little Tennessee Titan, Oakland Raiders, Kansas City, New England Thursday night. We got about 15 minutes, so we're about to come back on from commercial break here in just a second. Mom, who is Tim? I don't see Tim. Are you talking about my cousin Tim? For some reason, it's not showing a Tim in the comments. Are we going on? Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's Andrew Vanelli, Ace, filling in for the Beast of Sports Gab, Quentin Bailey. The show is featured today. It's presented by Side Street Grill at 31 South Florence. Tonight is steak night, so be sure to head over to Side Street Grill for tonight's special. Get a good steak at an affordable price. 31 South Florence, Side Street Grill. We're going to close out this portion of the show talking a little NFL. We'll talk about the Tennessee Titans. They've got the Oakland Raiders in Nashville this week. That's going to be a big game, Josh. What do you expect, man? That's a tough way to start the season.
That is a very tough way to start. As a Titans fan myself, people be sure to accuse me of it consistently. But
hey,
it is what it is. But it's so interesting. Both of these teams are at an interesting point.
Yeah, they are.
You got they're both young. They're both coming into their own. A lot of people expect things out of Tennessee, especially that they haven't. Nobody's expecting anything.
Right.
Out of the Titans for some years, so this is the first year in a long time they've had expectations. And the Raiders, kind of the same way last year. People were believers. I became a believer in Derek Carr. I like both of these teams. I became a fan of the Raiders. Yeah. Last year, watching how Carr plays and those guys adding Marshawn Lynch to that team, which is what they needed. I mean, it's going to be interesting. Yeah,
the Oakland's going to be good, man. There's no doubt about it. Unless they experience some unforeseen injuries or something like that, I think they're going to be in the mix. I have them actually playing New England in the AFC Championship game. I think they get that 2 spot. So that's a tough start for Tennessee. I also have Tennessee winning their division. We did the podcast, going back to the podcast, Sports Queued Up on the OAM Network. That's my buddy Quentin Bailey's podcast. You can get it on Stitcher or iTunes. We made our NFL selections on the last podcast. I believe it'll be you'll be able to tune in sometime this week, I believe. It usually takes a week before it's available. But everyone picked Houston Texans to come out of the division. I was the only one that picked the Titans, and I believe in Mariota. I believe what they're doing over there in Tennessee. I'm a Bears fan at heart. I've been a Bears fan since I was a kid, but when it comes to the AFC side, I'm definitely a Tennessee Titans fan. I always have been ever since they came into Memphis and then to Nashville. So I think the expectations are high for the Titans. I like the style of football they play. I like how young they are. And I expect big things. So that should be a good game, a great way to kick off, a tough way to kick off the season for them. But, man, what a better way than to start the season off 1-0 against a win over the Raiders. I know one thing about the Raiders, from talking to a few people, Las Vegas has definitely embraced them and are very excited about them showing up as their franchise team and finally having a professional football team there, as they should have. For a long time, but now they're finally going to have one, and from what I hear, they are very excited about them showing up to town. Another game Thursday night, we've got Kansas City, and they're playing. Who are they playing this Thursday?
They're playing New England.
They're playing the Patriots. That's right. They're playing the Patriots. Everybody's talking about the Julian Edelman injury. You know, does it hurt? Absolutely. Will Belichick figure out a way? Absolutely. I think Brandon Cooks will fill right in and probably have a big year. As a matter of fact, I'm kind of mad that I didn't pick him in the fantasy draft pick that we had Sunday night. That could have been a sleeper pick. I wasn't paying attention. Whoever got him may have got a possible steal of the draft. I did get Darren McFadden, though, which brings up the Cowboys and the Ezekiel Elliott issue. I still don't really understand what's going on. I heard it was upheld, but that he was playing game one. What do you know about that, Josh?
Yeah, see, that's what gets me. You know, they said, okay, the suspension is upheld. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess he's not playing. Then they say, well, I see Cowboys fans saying, well, Zeke is going to take it out on the Giants. Like, how's that possible? That doesn't make any sense. So I don't understand. I think, what I hear, it seems like it's still in court.
Okay.
So I guess he is still.
So what is he going to play game one?
Yeah.
And then he'll be out for.
I don't know. See, that's my thing.
That's what I'm saying. I don't understand, man.
It doesn't make a lot of sense.
I don't understand, but I know one thing. I picked Darren McFadden in either the fourth or fifth round in the draft, and we had a fantasy draft. I'm in a paid fantasy league with Quentin and some of the guys. Very excited. I haven't played fantasy football in about 3 years, but I used to play it every year, and I used to actually advise people on different strategies on how to play. Now I wasn't really sure on the format. On how the lineups go, so I was kind of drafting, not sure. I didn't know how many flex players, started. I didn't know how many defensive players started. It was a little bit different than what I was used to in the leagues that I used to play in. But it's a dynasty league, so I'm excited about that. Going to get back in the fantasy game. It's definitely going to be competitive. I can tell that the guys are definitely having fun with it and talking about that. So I'm excited about that. Who do the Cowboys have this week?
The Cowboys Sunday night, they're taking on the Giants.
The Giants. That's gonna be a good game, man. I think that the Giants, if they're gonna do anything, that it's gonna have to be this year. Eli's not getting any younger. I don't remember exactly. I know I have the Cowboys coming out of the division. I believe I had the Giants second. So that should be a good way to kick off the season, man. Those are pretty big games. I think New England will take care of Kansas City, no problem. But, it's a Thursday night game. Everybody's excited for the NFL season to kick off, so that'll probably have huge ratings. But I think New England will be just fine. I really expect Brandon Cooks to step in and fill in for Julian Edelman just fine. If you want to call into the show, we still have a few minutes. It's 901-452-3094. 901-452-3094 if you'd like to call into the show and talk about college football this weekend or last weekend. Talk about a little NFL. Kickoff is coming up here tomorrow night. You got Kansas City and New England. The Titans kick off against the Oakland Raiders on Sunday, and then Sunday night we got the Giants and the Cowboys playing. So feel free to call in.
And actually, another game I'm sure you'll be interested in this also. Seattle at Green Bay.
Wow, yeah. And on the NFC side, I have Atlanta and Green Bay. I don't really have an order. I know if Atlanta gets the one spot, this is my opinion now. This is what I'm picking. I think Atlanta goes back. I don't, why fix it if it isn't broken? They return just about everybody. I know the loss that it's hard to come back from a 28-3. How they respond to that, I don't know. All I know is that they're professionals. I know Julio Jones, Matt Ryan, that they've been there. They're professionals. They've got a ton of experience. I expect them to be back, especially out of their division. If they get the one spot, I expect to see them back in the Super Bowl. If Green Bay gets the one spot, which is very possible because I think Green Bay is going to be really hard to beat this year. I think I have them going 12-4. If they get the one spot, I just don't see Atlanta going into Lambeau and beating Aaron Rodgers and them. So depending on who gets that one spot in the NFC between those two, I think that's who shows back up in the Super Bowl. I believe I had Green Bay playing the Patriots, and the Patriots winning it all again. Unfortunately, because I'm not a big fan of the Patriots, but you've got to respect them because they do what they do. They win ball games. They always find a way. Bill Belichick, you don't have to like him. He knows how to coach. So we'll see what happens, man. The fun thing about the NFL is it's fun to watch because it's a level playing field. But it's like it's predictable, whereas college football, you can't really predict it. That's why I like college football so much more. But I am excited about both. I'm just excited that it's football season, and I'm ready to watch the games starting tomorrow night, man. I'll be busy watching the games Thursday, and then Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, into Monday night. Who's the Monday night game this week?
The Monday night, there's two. Starting with the New Orleans Saints and at Minnesota.
Wow, that's another good one, man.
So Adrian Peterson coming back.
Oh, yeah. That's another good one. I believe I have Adrian Peterson on my fantasy team, as a matter of fact. We're going to check that out right now. So here's my fantasy team. Tell me what you think, Josh. I've got Matt Ryan as my quarterback, and then Kirk Cousins as a backup. Then I've got Ty Montgomery, Shady McCoy, Adrian Peterson, Darren McFadden, and then at running back, I also have, I think, Paul Richardson was the 5th pick. Then at wide receiver, I've got Ted Ginn Jr., I've got J.J. Nelson, I've got Charles Sims, Larry Fitzgerald, Jeremy Maclin. And then on defense, tight end, I've got Jack Doyle and Jason Witten. On defense, I've got Barry Church, Navarro Bowman, and Trey Flowers. And then I've got Vinatieri as my kicker and Dan Bailey as a backup. What do you think about that team, man? You think I have a chance?
That is not bad.
It's not a bad team, is it?
It's not bad at all.
I picked up some good guys, man, but there were some pretty good picks that some guys had. I think, I really wanted to get Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. They were hanging around, I think, until like the 3rd. Like I said, I haven't played fantasy in 3 years. It was a little bit different, the way it was kind of snaked, the way the draft went. And, I really wanted one of those two guys. And when I saw him go, I was like, I've got to grab Matt Ryan, because you got to get you a good quarterback to have a chance in fantasy. But I like my lineup. I'll be able to move some guys around. And definitely, I kind of have a system and a formula for that too, just like I do for my college football handicapping. There's definitely little secrets and little things that you can do for fantasy to get an edge and to get an advantage. You do have to have the players, though, in order to win. Everyone, remember, if you'd like to call in, we've got a few minutes left, 901-452-3094. Again, I want to take the time. The show is presented by Side Street Grill at 31 South Florence. That you can go tonight. Wednesday night is steak night. Go down there, get you a couple steaks, a couple drinks. I'm not sure exactly what the price is. I'm filling in for Quentin. I believe it's somewhere around $30, if I'm not mistaken, for a couple steaks and a side or something and a drink. Go out there, 31 South Florence, Side Street Grill, and get you a good meal at an affordable price. So we talked a little bit about college football. We talked a little bit about some NFL football. Talked a little bit about LeBron, the Ezekiel Elliott situation. Really excited about the weekend ahead. Talked a little bit about fantasy and then upsets. The upsets this week: Howard beating UNLV, Liberty beating Baylor, which was crazy, and then of course Memphis got moved up a day ahead to Friday night for kickoff. What are you most excited about this weekend, Josh?
Man, college football wise, so many things.
I know.
The USC game. USC and Stanford.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one. With the showing that USC made, man, Stanford is just one of those teams, man, that they can beat. They can beat anybody. Stanford is a team, and people might laugh when I say this, but Stanford is the type of team, the way they play, that can line up against an Alabama and on the right day beat them. Will Bama beat them probably 7 times out of 10? Most likely. But Stanford plays that style of football where they're tough, they play good defense, they run the ball, they're balanced. Don't be surprised one bit if Stanford goes in there and takes that game. I know I wouldn't be. That's a team that I kind of left out of the Pac-12 discussion. They went to Sydney, Australia, and granted it was Rice, but they put it on Rice. In season openers, when you see things like I just mentioned happen, like the Howard and the Liberties of the world beating teams like UNLV and Baylor, anything can happen. So to go in and beat a team the way they did is impressive. That's what kind of worries me this Friday with UCF. I know they played Florida International, but they've got Butch Davis there now, who's a good football coach. He brought some players with them, and I mean they absolutely laid it on them by 44. So I definitely expect a shootout in that game. I'm super excited about the Tigers and what they can do. I hope they can get out of this one unscathed. They did experience some injuries. So, we'll see what happens. I believe in it.
And I'll tell you this, Georgia Notre Dame.
Yeah, I don't, I'm a Notre Dame fan, so I don't want to get too biased on here or anything like that. I know people don't like to talk about the Golden Dumbers, but they did lay it on the Temple Owls this weekend. So I think they had about a 33-point win. And Georgia, I tell you what, man, Georgia, I hated to see, I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you mentioned that game because I hate to see a guy go down. I hated to see Jacob Eason go down. But, man, that might be a blessing in disguise. I hate to use an injury as a blessing in disguise, but that Fromm kid was the different. I mean, man, if he sparked that team, it was a boring football game. It was a very boring football game. If I'm not mistaken, it was 0-0. And there was just nothing happening. I mean, they were just punting the ball back and forth to each other. Eason went down. I'm sure the hearts of all the Georgia fans, probably dropped. Granted, Fromm, was very highly touted coming out of high school. But, man, that kid came in and lit it up. He looked really good. I'm excited to see more from him. I believe he'll be one of the young guys that we talk a whole lot about in the SEC, along with the kid at South Carolina, Bentley. Both of those kids showed me a whole lot. I knew Bentley had the talent. It's just whether or not, you never can count on Muschamp, But he got an offensive coordinator in there and kind of let him take the reins. And, I'm telling you what, man, South Carolina as a team, I don't think they'll compete for the SEC East title. I think it's going to come down to Florida and Georgia after this weekend. And seeing the Fromm kid and seeing the way Florida played, I know Scarlett was out. I know Callaway were out. I didn't think that it would affect Florida. Apparently it did. Their offense was very bad. But I think that Georgia is in good shape because that defense is absolutely unbelievable. I think out of those 11 guys, I would say 6 or 7 of them will play on Sunday for sure, especially in the front 7. They are beasts. So with that, we'll close out the show. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And catch me on my show, Sports Hour with Ace, on Friday morning from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. I will see you guys then. Peace. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Go ND. Hey, Margaret. Good morning. Thank you guys for watching.